Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Karin Helmstedt.
Hi there, and welcome to our Highlights edition. The best stories from the past week of programming here on Euromaxx. And here's a look at some of what's in the lineup for today. Creative. Germany's Peter Schmidt is a leading product designer. Colorful. The Spanish city of Valencia celebrates the start of spring. Constructive. Bjarke Ingels is a top architect from Denmark. Well, it was in 1967 that Gilbert of South Tyrol in northern Italy and George Passmore of Britain first met at St. Martin's School of Art in London. It was apparently, as they say, love at first sight, and from the moment they graduated, they have always been a central part of their own artwork. Well, today they're well established as Britain's most eccentric artistic duo, and they always remain true to their trademark style. And their latest project, London Pictures, is no exception, and it'll be on show in Duisburg for the next 3 months.
The British artists Gilbert and George are exploring Duisburg Harbour. They only venture out of London when they really have to, or when they're invited to present their works.
Wherever there are people, pictures work.
Wherever they want us, we go. That's very simple.
Around 70 examples of their work are on show at Duisburg's Küppersmühle Museum. Their series entitled London Pictures features 292 old newspaper headlines and tells of the darker side of life.
Jump to death in the best suit, no? Children poisoned to death, no? Diana death, no? Death of London Marathon. Just extraordinary stuff.
Their source material, old newspaper posters that once adorned the front of newsagents. In the space of 6 years, they stole nearly 4,000 of them.
One has to go into the shop and buy a Mars bar or something, and then somebody has to steal. Yeah. It's quite complicated. 3,712 times. Very complicated.
One is outside opening the gate because they are gated, the sheets. No? Have to open the gate and take them out, folding together and pass by. No? It's extraordinary.
The duo arranged the headlines by topic and frequency before turning them into these funky collages. It's often said that today's newspapers are tomorrow's fish and chip wrappings. But Gilbert and George wanted to give them meaning and immortalize them for posterity.
So the posters actually make us able to deal with the difficult subjects of death,
hope,
life,
fear,
sex,
money,
race,
religion,
which are very difficult to sketch or to draw, but these posters enable us to tackle them head-on, very confrontationally.
Underneath the arches.
It was over 40 years ago that Italian-born Gilbert met up with British-born George in London. For their debut performance, the duo transformed themselves into singing sculptures for hours at a time. They photographed colored and enlarged photos, assembling them in collages. In the 1970s, they moved into a studio in London's East End. The British capital has always been one of their most important sources of inspiration. At the end of the 70s, they hit the big time and had their work displayed in museums right across the world. In 1986, they were honored with the Turner Prize for their artistic achievements. Being the stars of their own work has become a Gilbert and George trademark, like here in their series called Union Freak Jack. Their self-portraits are on show in Duisburg, but the real stars are the headlines. They want visitors to question the captions and think about the people behind them. The duo never argue about what to put into their art. They say they're always on the same wavelength.
Taking images day by day by day, you go towards an idea. And the idea is like creating a soup. No? And one day the soup is ready. No? It doesn't matter exactly what it is, but it's towards that feeling.
It's not teamwork, it's not a collaboration. We are two people, but one artist. That's the secret, in fact. Because we managed to meld into one artistic expression.
The duo say London Pictures represents events in all of the world's megacities. Violence, death, and trash stories are by no means confined to the British capital.
I'm sure the issues discussed in the pictures you have exactly the same, wherever there are people.
Gilbert and George don't want to reveal what their next project is, but one thing is clear. They'll be continuing their successful artistic partnership.
We both think we're the best people we ever met.
It's very good looking.
They were all exaggerated.
Another Gilbert and George trademark will also remain intact. The duo will continue to feature in their next creations.
Well, you may not know our next protagonist by name, but you'll probably recognize his products. And that's because the designs of Germany's Peter Schmidt are absolutely everywhere, in the form of perfume bottles, packaging, or even logos. His style is considered to be minimalist and simple, and his work is influenced by Japanese and southeastern Asian culture. And at 75 years old, he's at the height of his creative powers, with work ranging from stage design to crockery production.
Peter Schmidt's take on contemporary product design is modern and minimalist. From exclusive scents to everyday objects, Schmidt's trademark style lends an unmistakable flair to the packaging. Schmidt has been one of Germany's most successful product designers for decades now. He's received many awards for his work. Most recent was his induction into German advertising's Hall of Fame. He's pleased, but this prize too will share the fate of his earlier awards.
I've never kept or saved an award. The older you get, the more important it is to maintain your sense of freshness. And dragging around a bunch of prizes doesn't help.
To help maintain that freshness, Schmidt surrounds himself with a young and talented team. A few years ago, he sold his design studio, but then he decided to carry on working with a small crew. He's always on the lookout for new ideas. In 2006, he began working with porcelain for the first time. His dishware line has won several prizes, including the coveted Red Dot Design Award. But he's not content to rest on his laurels.
Learning new things is very important to me. I've gone through the same learning process with paper and other materials. The most difficult new material I've worked with is plastic. I still have a bit of trouble understanding what plastic is all about.
Born in 1937, Peter Schmidt studied at the College of Art in Kassel. To this day, he still uses a pencil and paper to make his first sketches.
First you think deeply, and then you let your ideas flow through your wrist to the pencil. It's a bit old-fashioned, of course.
Schmidt has designed more than 100 perfume bottles and set many a trend. His best-known work was for the German Gilsander label. It's a design classic that was exhibited at the New York Museum of Modern Art.
Consumers today can grasp only very simple signals, and quite rightly so. If I try to send too many signals, they won't want to buy the product anymore.
Schmidt's Hamburg home testifies to his passion for collecting beautiful objects and works of art from all over the world. He loves to travel to distant countries and draws inspiration from different cultures. Alongside his work for major labels, he's also designed logos for the public sector, including Germany's armed forces, the Bundeswehr, and the Congress of Protestant Churches. His latest stage set for a Hamburg theater features oversized letters. Ever the perfectionist, He pulls out his felt-tip marker to fill in a spot that's barely visible to the audience.
So, that's fixed.
He's been designing for theater for more than 20 years now.
I have to think strategically because you work against the clock. The dress rehearsal is around the corner, and then comes the performance. Everything has to work, or else it all falls apart. There's a lot of suspense. When I design a perfume bottle, I can always say I need another 10 days. But in theater, you don't have even an hour to spare.
Das ist hier völlig unmöglich. Nicht eine Stunde.
From advertising to stage art, Peter Schmidt is the consummate master of his craft and a visionary of design.
Every year, the Spanish city of Valencia welcomes the start of spring with a huge fiesta. The date is always chosen so that the festival ends on the 19th of March, and that's the day of San Jose, the patron saint of carpenters. Well, one of the main attractions of this festival are the huge works of art made in the form of cartoon-like figures, and the entire city devotes itself to a marathon party.
A feast for the senses, Las Fallas is 5 days of fun featuring fireworks, music, dance, traditional costumes, and colorful parades. A popular highlight of the celebrations is the towering effigies on display throughout the city. For locals, the festival is the high point of the year. Up to 1 million tourists visit the city every year to take part.
It's so incredible. I can't believe that. Like all the time, so many people everywhere. I can't believe this. It's amazing. In Finland, there's no party like this. Yeah.
It's not just a week of partying. It's about passion. It's in our blood. It's there year-round. It's incredible. It makes you forget all your worries. It makes you feel there's nothing but joy in the world. It's my first time here, and I'm blown away by everything that's going on here in the streets.
Each neighborhood of Valencia is home to a group of locals who work all year long on the construction of the giant effigies. They're a little more modest than usual this year because of the financial crisis. But the more expensive ones still cost some 300,000 euros to construct. Each falla tells a story.
What we do is create figures that serve as the center of the parades, and they're based on novels or whatever you want. Then you develop scenes that people enact around the effigy, and these are based on topical issues such as local or national politics.
This falla is a caricature of German Chancellor Angela Merkel. She's a common sight here on the streets of Valencia. She even stars in this year's winning falla.
We show her in an imaginary country called Pastakistan. It's a place we made up. She's in Arab costume, and she's holding an axe to symbolize austerity measures. The message is that whoever pays gives the orders. The Sultan, on the other hand, couldn't care less about the crisis.
The tradition dates back to the days when in spring craftsmen burned the wooden frames of the lamps needed for dark winter days.
By the time the fire is burning, I'm already thinking of next year's project. I love watching my work go up in flames. The bonfire that takes place after these 4 days are over has a cleansing effect.
Valencia is famous for its fireworks displays. Throughout the festival, thousands of people gather at the town hall every afternoon to enjoy the unbelievably loud displays. It starts when the Carnival Queen gives the sign. It lasts 6 minutes and is positively deafening. Some of the bangs are up to 120 decibels, and earplugs are frowned upon. When it's over, the public storms the square. The Carnival Queen is an integral part of the festivities.
There are lots of ceremonies. Every day is a challenge. You get up and have a full program of events that you will only experience once in your life. It means a lot to me.
Será el de la falla Nacho Ordana.
Only one effigy is spared the flames. After a public ballot, it goes on display at the city's Fire Museum, a great honor for the artists who made it.
It's hard to explain. It's a job that becomes part of you. You grow up with this tradition, and the festival is why you do it. If you make it, then all your dreams come true in the space of just a few hours.
A good night's sleep is out of the question during the festival. At nighttime, the illuminated streets are even more crowded than they are during the day. This traditional Spanish festival is a perfect way to welcome spring.
Well, the Mies van der Rohe Award is the most prestigious architectural prize in Europe, and one of the nominees this year is Danish architect Bjarke Ingels. Now, he's considered to be well ahead of the game in his field, as usually architects are much older by the time they're so well established. But 38-year-old Ingels has already made his mark all over Europe, and he's even branching out to the US.
The buildings designed by the Bjarke Ingels Group, or BIG for short, loom large on every skyline. But the company founder insists on keeping his feet on the ground.
We like this idea of hedonistic sustainability, which is this idea that sustainability doesn't have to be a sacrifice. It doesn't have to be a question of how much of your current quality of life are you prepared to give up in order to afford becoming sustainable. That sustainability can actually be a question of increasing your life quality.
A prime example is a power plant in Copenhagen that generates energy from garbage and doubles as a ski slope. A welcome idea for winter sports fans in a country bereft of mountains.
We propose to install an elevator in the power plant that takes you to the top of a ski slope where you can have a green and a blue ski slope. And make it all the way down in the middle of Copenhagen. So from 2016, you have to look out for the Danish competitors in alpine skiing, because now we can actually practice at home.
Bjarke Ingels originally wanted to be a cartoonist, but since the University of Copenhagen did not offer a degree course in comic design, he studied architecture. After working for Dutch star architect Rem Koolhaas, Ingels set up his own company in 2006. BIG became an international creative collective, comprising over 100 individuals, from architects and designers to copywriters and business experts. Ingels and his team have submitted dozens of designs for buildings in Europe, Asia, and the US, and have realized 10 major projects. Among BIG's more high-profile ventures was the Danish pavilion for the 2010 Expo in Shanghai. Mountain Dwellings, a residential complex in Copenhagen, won the Housing Category Award of the 2008 World Architecture Festival. And now Bjarke Ingels has been nominated for the prestigious Mies van der Rohe Award. Superkilen, designed in collaboration with architect Michael Stubgaard, is an integration project in Copenhagen's Nørrebro district.
There's 60 different nationalities. We actually thought it could be interesting to create an urban space that would somehow reflect the population living around it. So we asked people to nominate elements from their other home country.
And residents duly responded. Among the cultural mementos sourced from their home countries are an octopus slide from Japan, a neon sign from Qatar, and swings from Iraq.
What you see here on the square is a lot of different benches which would emphasize the social possibilities of actually getting to meet each other.
The urban park was finished in 2011. The city and a foundation invested more than 13 million euros in the project.
It is a good thing, really, for park to be here, people to integrate with each other.
Yeah, it has given another international, flavor to Copenhagen, I think.
We like to come here and work out instead of going to fitness center or staying at home, because it's nice to be out in the fresh weather. And it's also nice that people can look at us because we're really strong and good looking.
Bjarke Ingels has also been making his mark on the other side of the Atlantic. The extreme space restrictions in places like Manhattan inspired an inventive new concept for which he has coined the term court scraper.
it's a very, very simple experiment of trying to take two seemingly uncombinable ideas, the courtyard and the skyscraper, and merge them into a new hybrid architecture.
For his latest project, Ingalls has been given the challenge of rethinking the campus of the renowned Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. But he's already thinking even bigger than the world's largest museum and research complex.
You can't think about Australia without thinking about the Sydney Opera. So I think all Danish architects would love to one day do a Sydney Opera, and I think we haven't done ours yet, that's for sure.
Bjarke Ingels is definitely making it big on the international architecture scene.
Down to southwestern Germany now, where we met up with Stefan Voigt, who's a collector of so-called microcars. Now, that's a type of vehicle that came into production after the Second World War, when engineers were looking to create cars that were more affordable for the masses. Well, although they're not made anymore, these mini automobiles do still symbolize that period of economic upswing. And Voigt offered to show us around his factory hall, but not before he took us out for a slow spin.
This is not a toy car. It's a Kleinschnitger F-125. It was created in 1954 and produced until 1957. Stefan Voigt loves taking it out for a spin.
It's fantastic because it weighs next to nothing and you can feel that. It only has 5 horsepower, but you don't have the feeling it has too little power.
You have to make an appointment with Voigt to access his old factory hall. It's an impressive sight from the very start. And that's just the workshop. The next room is the real treasure trove, a collection of post-war vehicles, including many microcars.
The interesting thing is that when I refer to microcars, people have no idea what I mean. But if I say Isetta or Messerschmitt, they immediately know what I'm talking about.
Voigt owns around 60 microcars. The result is a private collection, including many rarities that demonstrate the inventive spirit of automotive design from the 1940s to the 1960s.
Microcars fascinated me because they were built during a period of austerity. Right after World War II, we effectively had nothing at all. There were pioneers and construction engineers who began zealously working out their ideas.
This tiny car, the Spatz, was the first car with a synthetic chassis. Many of the models, like the Weinsberg, ceased production decades ago and have been mostly forgotten. Few people know that the Zundap company produced a visionary four-wheeled microcar, the Janus.
The principle was that the backseat passengers faced the rear. So it was logical to put the engine in the middle, because in the front or back it would block the view. So it was in the middle, and that's why I call this the only true mid-engine vehicle ever built.
The Kleinschnitger's chassis is made of aluminum and weighs just 130 kilos. That was very practical for the owners.
It has a motorcycle engine and thus has no reverse gear. And you don't need one with this vehicle, because you just lift one end and turn it around if need be. It weighs so little, you can do that, no problem.
We take a spin in the most precious item in the collection, a Messerschmitt TG 500 Tiger. Today, it's worth nearly 30,000 euros. But Stefan Voigt isn't especially interested in market values. He wants to bring this realm of forgotten engineering back into the present.
Well, that's all for our Highlights edition this time. Hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, alles Gute aus Berlin und tschüss.